What is up, everybody, and welcome to Studio de Jefre, where today we will talk about some of the Cowboys' draft plans because they are telling us a little something about their draft plans with where they are on the road. So, things that you need to know about the Cowboys and their draft and what they're doing with their roster. Number one, here are the names that we're aware of that are 30 visits for the Cowboys. What does 30 visit mean? 30 visit means that before each NFL draft, each team can bring up to 30 players out to their facility. So coaches, GMs, like basically just to spend time with these people, get to know them, see what makes them tick, figure out if they're who you think they are, who you want them to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And teams don't waste these. These are not smoke screens. So what we can do is we can take who is visiting, and as we get more and more names, you can see how many at each position, and it's going to tell you about draft plans. So guys that we're aware of for the Cowboys that are 30 visits that'll be out at the Star in the next couple of weeks include, thanks to Bobby Belt and Jane Slater, and I forget who the tight end one came from, a guy named Doug or something. Chris Olave, Ohio State wide receiver, who would be a first-round target. Treylon Burks, Arkansas wide receiver, who would be a first-round target. Kenyon Green, Texas A&M guard, who would be a first-round target. DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M defensive lineman, who I believe would be a second-round, maybe even third-round target, who going into this college football season, people thought maybe top 10 pick, but I think he's more of a second- or third-round guy. And then Jelani Woods, tight end, Virginia, who is a freaking giant of a man and tested awesome athletically. So those are 5 names to know because they're on the 30 visit list. We'll get up to 25 more of those, and you'll be updated right here. Now, where have the Cowboys coaching staff been the last week or so? Here is 3 of the places that I know they've been. Kellen Moore was at Boise State's Pro Day. Makes sense, right? He went there. The name that would jump to my mind when I hear that Kellen Moore is at the Boise State Pro Day is Khalil Shakir, their slot wide receiver. And I would call that a second to third round target. Dude makes a bunch of incredible catches. I do think he's going to be a slot guy in the NFL, but that's what jumps out on his tape is there's just so many balls that it's like, wow, how did he do that? A lot of one-handers, a lot of along the sideline stuff, a lot of incredible catches. So Khalil Shakir, Boise State wide receiver. Where's Dan Quinn been? Also the Cowboys defensive line coach Aiden Dirty, I believe, was at UConn, which is where Travis Jones is, the 330-pound good athlete nose tackle. To me, that would be a second-round target. I'd be surprised if he's available to the Cowboys in the second round, but that's where Aiden Dirty has been. And then Dan Quinn, I think everybody's seen because I've got a ton of questions about a certain player because of this, but Dan Quinn was at Ole Miss's Pro Day and doing a lot of work with defensive end edge Sam Williams. He was also at Penn State. The names you would need to know there, also defensive ends, Arnold Ebiketie and Jesse Lukita. Ebiketie, I think, is a second-round pass rushing target. Lukita, I haven't actually watched yet, so don't kill me, but I don't know. Sam Williams at Ole Miss is one of the guys that I got the most questions about this morning when I asked for questions on Twitter at Time for Jeffrey. And so let me just pull up the Sam Williams scouting report. And Sam Williams has background stuff. There was an alleged sexual battery where the charges were dropped and then he was reinstated to the football team. And so what I have to go off of is his football tape. The rest of the stuff, I don't know all that background, but you can bet your butt that teams will figure it out. Sam Williams, 6'0", so he's a little over 6'3.5", 261 pounds. Good, really good jumps. Ran a 4.46. 260-pound guys running in the 4.4s is not common. He had 12.5 sacks at Ole Miss last year, and I was surprised when I was watching his tape that I hadn't heard his name more from national guys in their rankings because Sam Williams is better than some of the edge guys that are getting talked about more. You can watch him play against Charles Cross at Mississippi State. You can watch him play against Evan Neal at Alabama. And, boy, he's got some good reps against Charles Cross. I don't think he's a bendy guy like you think of, Randy Gregory had it, right? But Von Miller, guys like that who you're looking for that can not just have a quick first step, but can really tighten up the corner around an offensive tackle and get to the quarterback. A lot of times when Sam Williams goes outside, he's got the first step and he's got speed, but he doesn't have that bend, so he just ends up too deep and runs by the play. But that's not to say he never wins outside. He does. And being that fast with a really good get-off helps him win inside too. And I would say he has flashes of power, and consistent tenacity is words I use. Like, the dude goes hard, and he makes plays from the backside because he can run. He plays hard as hell. He shows power sometimes when he's straight arming an offensive tackle if he wins with his hands. So I don't think he's a super nuanced player. I think there's a level of rawness to that, or a level of development that'll be needed. But on tape alone, you would take Sam Williams in either the second or third round. So there is a pass rusher that if you hadn't had a scouting report on him or you hadn't heard of him yet, now you have. Sam Williams is a guy that the Cowboys showed interest in, with Dan Quinn doing a lot with him in his workout. Now, let me answer a couple of draft questions from you guys, and then I'll be back later today to do a live, and you guys can ask me questions on there. That'll be fun. Sports Matt, is Dallas once again showing their hand by basically telling everyone they're drafting offensive line in round 1, considering they've allowed 2 starters to move on and not signed any free agents? Not yet. I would say not yet. I will be surprised if you don't have a James Washington-ish signing at guard before the draft gets here, because if they don't, then yeah, I think they're pretty forced into, not necessarily the first round, but the first 2, definitely first 3, they would need to pick a guard, because you can't convince me that the Cowboys believe that Connor McGovern can be the left guard. They gave him an opportunity last year when they felt like they had to, because Connor Williams just had too many penalties. They're like, that's it, we got to do this. And that lasted all of a few weeks, because they decided that Connor McGovern couldn't do the job well enough. So you can't convince me that they're going to be okay with running Connor McGovern or Matt Farniok or whoever out there at left guard. So yeah, the starting left guard, I don't believe is on the roster, because if the starting left guard is on the roster, it's a guy that even they don't believe in. And that would be crazy. So I would look in free agency, and I think we'll still see a guy get signed. I'll be surprised if we don't. NFL Robbie, who is your top-rated lineman who could realistically make it to number 24? If you watch on this channel often, you already know all these names. But the realistic options at 24, it's 1 center, it's 2 guards. If you're willing to take a center, Tyler Linderbaum at Iowa, his tape is freaking phenomenal. He's just not a really big center, and he's not a long-armed center. But his tape is phenomenal. And then at guard, it's Kenyon Green at A&M, who is on the Cowboys 30 visit list, and it's Zion Johnson, the Boston College guard, who, I mean, you're splitting hairs trying to pick between the 2 of them. Maybe the NFL will do it for you. Maybe one will be gone and one will be there. And you can decide that way. But yeah, 3 offensive linemen that are realistic, because the top tackles in this class, Evan Neal at Alabama, Ike Ekwonu at NC State, Charles Cross at Mississippi State, and Trevor Penning at Northern Iowa, I think all 4 of them will be gone, and you won't have an option to pick them. If Trevor Penning made it, you would throw his name into the mix, because he's one of those offensive tackles that I think he tested well athletically, but watching him play, he's not the most fluid dude. He's the meanest, strongest dude. Well, maybe not the strongest. Ekwonu is a freaking tank. But he is just a nasty, mean, run-blocking dude. And so if Trevor Penning made it, you might pick a tackle that could start his career at guard, even though he's 6'7", I believe. But he plays all hunched over like he's blocking inside zone at all times. So Trevor Penning is another name to know, but I think that he'll be gone as well. What receivers could be in play in the second round besides George Pickens and Sky Moore? Oh, man, there's a bunch. George Pickens and Sky Moore are my favorite. I'll be surprised if either one gets to 56. The other names that I would keep in mind are, come on, man, South Alabama. Jalen Tolbert at South Alabama, I think, is a heck of a prospect. John Mechie, Alabama, I think, is a really nice prospect coming off of an ACL. I don't know if you want to factor that in or not, but it's an ACL. I don't worry about ACLs, except Michael Gallup's, which might keep him out for the first month of the season. And then I would throw in Christian Watson, North Dakota State. I just watched him this morning. 6'4", 208 pounds, runs like the freaking wind, blocks his ass off. He just happened to play at North Dakota State, where they don't throw the ball. He had 800 receiving yards. No one else on the team had 300. Christian Watson's a nice player. So there you go. There's some quick topics to fill your Cowboys or whet your Cowboys appetite this morning. And then I'll check in with you guys a little bit later on today after I go to Home Depot to get some plants to put by the pool. Then I'll pop back in here and we'll do a little Q&A. We'll do a little show with you guys. Use the promo code JeffC at Underdog Fantasy. If you are into the single game over-unders, you got your fantasy stuff, your best ball, which is what they do big time. But I like to do the over on every Lucas stat line and just see if I can get filthy rich, betting $2 at a time. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through, so be cool to everyone. I love you. Bye.